Yeah, Dr. Malik.
Yeah, can you make full screen?
Sure. Okay, sister, this is not your time. Let me switch on. Let me share the screen. You can share the screen later. Dr. Malik.
The previous one, Akram.
Okay. So.
Should we start?
Let's start.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. As-salatu as-salamu alaykum Rasulullah sallallahu Habibullah. Thank you everyone for joining in. The objective of Halal Angels was to connect the investors and the startups, because this was a problem faced by the entrepreneurs across the world, because they have an idea, but they don't have access to funds. And the other problem was investors wanted to invest, but they didn't have a platform to connect. So we started Halal Angels some time back, but we launched in the 2020 in the month of May. And our objective was, again, as I said, connecting angel investors with startups, because the halal economy is $5 trillion, and there was nothing to do that. So when we launched it, it was very amazing that the first people to sign was Salum Awad. He's from East Africa, and the advantage we felt was the first hijrat of Muslims didn't happen to Medina, but it happened to East Africa. So we got the istikhara that we are at the right track. And the best launch I ever got in my life, I was supposed to launch it at an event in Southeast Asia, but unfortunately because of COVID, it didn't happen. And my mother is not well, so I was massaging her legs using and sitting and working on my computer. I asked my mother, can I ask you a favor? She says, what? I said, I want to launch Halal Angels from your under of your feet, because according to Islam, under the feet of the mother is the heaven. And she smiled and she says, Bismillah. And I launched it on LinkedIn. And within 1 week, we were like a global phenomena. So that was, the launch. And then we wanted to get into, how Islam happens. And now the first angel investor in Islam is Khadija Raziyallahu Ta'ala, who's the first wife of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So we thought we'll start an initiative, called the Khatija Initiative, and take it from there. Akram, the next slide, please.
Yeah.
Now, why the halal economy needs entrepreneurs? Because entrepreneurs spur growth, entrepreneurs add national income, entrepreneurs create social change, it helps in community development, it creates innovation, it solves social issues and problems relating to human beings. It also adds revenues to the government, because when the business starts improving, they start paying taxes. And overall, it creates jobs. Next slide, Akram, please.
Yeah.
And very important aspect of the halal consumer market, it is estimated that it will reach 9.71 trillion by 2025. And majority of these countries will be, which is expecting a boom, will be Indonesia, India, Malaysia, Pakistan, Nigeria, Iran. And most of the people always think halal means food, but halal means overall situation. And if you look at Asia, the Asian Muslim tech startups is a huge opportunity, because there's 1.8 billion Muslims across the world and 1 billion Muslims in Asia itself. The community is growing, and this market is good for all investors. Now I'll conclude. Halal doesn't mean anything to do with this. It's Islam, but halal in actual real meaning is ethical. How you deal with the government in an ethical way by paying taxes, how you deal with your staff, how you deal with your suppliers, how you deal with the environment. Everything has to be in ethical nature. When you say ethical, halal code is also ethical when you look at that. So I would invite now my co-host, which is actually the main host, Mr. Akram Haq. He's the founder of a very prestigious news channel called the Policy Times. He's also the founder of World Startup Council, World Education Council, and very active member in the startup ecosystem and the policy
Thank
initiatives
you.
he's taking. So from now, Akram will take it and introduce the everyone there.
Thank you so much, Dr. Malik, for launching something which is really divine, which has blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and your mother, you said, and a lot of people. Halal, there are 4 or 5 connections I find. Before I start, Dr. Malik has already introduced me. We are establishing a media platform which is again halal, ethical, and sensible, responsible. So through Policy Times, we are trying to communicate and convey that media has a very important and responsible role to play for nation building and for the world growth and world prosperity. And hence, we have taken policy as the foundation of it. And I'm so happy that Dr. Malik, felt relevant to associate us, me, and launch this in this platform. There cannot be a better way, to convey this message. There are 5 connections I strongly feel. Number one, Africa. Starting with Africa is a great, positive approach because Africa is the future of civilization. Whether these are movies or wherever we get the message that the whole world will be ultimately looking at Africa for to save the world from falling. The second is a great connection. India Africa Connect is a brilliant thing because both regions, India is again the next 30 to 40 year belongs to India, India's rise. The whole world is looking at India. India has a huge population. Within that, India has a huge minority or Muslim community presence. So this gives, in fact, the second largest Muslim populous country in the world. So that gives a message that there is a huge market and opportunity. Also, India Africa Connect is thriving and booming, and it has much more to grow. The other thing is halal, ethical, and startup. So the beauty of this synergy is India Africa we are connecting. On the other hand, we are talking about startups. As Dr. Malik said, entrepreneurship is the future. We at Policy Times also feel that entrepreneurship is something which entrepreneurship and innovation that drive societies. You see all those societies which led the world or which ruled the world, whether these are Britishers, Americans, or before them Portuguese or others, they led the world with the help of entrepreneurship and innovation. So wherever there is a spur and spike and growth of entrepreneurship and innovation, there is nothing that can stop them to grow further. And now within the broader framework, we are talking about halal and ethical, which is ultimate, thing of everything. So often the question comes, why being ethical and halal is important? You see, those who earn halal or who eat halal and ethical things, they spur peace, prosperity, and sustainable growth in the world. So sustainability, which we are talking about, is there within the broader framework of halal and ethical. Dr. Malik said that it is more than a $5 trillion economy we are awaiting. Now we have 3 eminent speakers to talk on this topic. And I want to welcome Mr. Salum Awad, founder of SSC Capital, Mr. Marlon Ware, founder and CEO of AfriConnect, and we have Sister Khadija Omari, founder and CEO of Pink Hijab Initiative from Tanzania. I will just quickly brief the format of the discussion today. So these are our speakers. They will speak 5 minutes each in the first, when we request them to speak. Then we will ask a question, and to answer that question, we will request them to speak for again 5 minutes. So total 10 minutes, each of our speakers will speak. Then we will go to question answer session. So to start off, because women has a very important role to play, and women first approach we are adopting, I would request Sister Khadija Omari, the founder of Pink Hijab from Tanzania, to deliver her remarks. Sister Khadija, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Assalamu alaikum to everyone, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I'm honored to represent Africa women.
Should I run your PPT or you can run it?
You can help me to run it.
Right, I will just share the screen.
Thank you.
Please go on.
I'll be presenting women entrepreneurship in Africa. To start with introduction, tech entrepreneurship is growing area of interest to policymakers, government, and researchers. It plays an important role in bridging the gap of digital inclusion. When we see this system again, it supports new ideas, improving products, service to new markets to be developed, and new wealth are created. However, women-led startups in Africa have had only access to 3% of the African tech startups investment between 2013 and 2020. But as we dig a little deeper, and you'll find that in many countries in Africa, most female-led entrepreneurs are small business with little opportunity growth. We can also convert this due to COVID has accelerated the need for people to be digital. As we see women in Africa, when it comes to digital, there is a lack of skills. Moreover, the number of women tech entrepreneurs in Africa is very small, while technology grows super fast. By increasing digital literacy, we'll bring more business opportunity for women in Africa. Maybe we can think of Africa to have an international firm that will fund agencies and programs such as Small Business Administration, which provide assistance to startups, entrepreneurs. When we come to problem statements, yes. As the world is experiencing a growing demand of tech skills on its day-to-day activities for simplicity, affordability, and easy access, different innovations have been witnessed in doing business and communicating digitally. However, the number of women in this space remains low. Maybe because lack of better opportunities, lack of networks and mentors. This may also be a shortage of funding women in Africa groups in SMEs, as we also see criteria for women to participate is very low. And we can also agree most startups are male dominated. That's leaving women further behind. If we go to previous research factors, such social norms, market network, and competition do not seem to be barrier for women to becoming entrepreneurs. If we have more opportunities available for women in tech, and this can also reduce gender gap and discrimination and violence. To the next page. While women entrepreneurship is a central aspect of economic development and public policy concern in most African countries, challenges constraining women tech entrepreneurship, maybe we can go on a case study in Tanzania. We see limited access to the information, for example, opportunities, access to finance, and social networks. Also, underfunding of women startups, low inclusion in tech-based opportunities, limited tech knowledge and digital skills on how to go about. Also limited drive motivation among girls and women. On the next PowerPoint, we can say there is a need to develop women entrepreneurship centers, which could have information for women entrepreneurs, including a database of available opportunities and market where women can have opportunity to grab through going to the database. So when we come to the way forward, prioritization of girls towards accessing technical opportunities in terms of finance, knowledge, and resource, motivating girls to engage in tech from the grassroots level. When we talk about grassroots level, we go to primary school level, which this can be included in school syllabus. When we compare with other African countries, our neighbors, we see that grassroots from the primary school, it's included in their syllabus. Scaling up tech programs to foster tech inclusion motivation among girls by building capacity building entrepreneurship and appreciate her role in economic development of her country. As the male counterpart, this will encourage more women to venture into areas of the economic that have been nominated by men. As we always see, only men are given awards on successful through the economic to the development. Maybe also successful stories from leading women tech startups to instill confidence among girls and women. Also transforming women startups to digital or tech-based business. To conclude, as I end up, also if we can partnership and collaborations are more aspects for women entrepreneurship. And lastly, not the last, we can also have centers or incubation needs to be established in areas to train and orient women entrepreneurship on the actual function they wish to establish the startups. We can review also from the African Developing Bank, whenever they have this call of proposal for women startups, you could see the criteria. They don't meet the African women in such opportunities. To conclude on this, on behalf of Pink Hijab Initiative, I really appreciate the opportunity given to me to be one among the speakers. And we also welcome Halal Angels to Tanzania and educate and train and support women in the startups, as this is going to be an opportunity. And as a way forward with this Corona, everything is tech and everything is digital. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sister Khadija, for your wonderful, very compact presentation touching upon almost all important aspects of entrepreneurship, especially women entrepreneurship. Now, moving ahead, may I request Mr. Salom Awad, the founder of SSC Capital, to kindly give your remarks. Yeah.
Presentation or the remarks, because I have a few slides. Is it the time for the slides or this is just the introduction? Sorry.
Mr. Salamawad, you take your time, because you're helping the whole ecosystem in East Africa and Africa, because other people will also learn what's happening through your grand experience. So I think you can continue with all your slides.
Right. All right. Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Again, I also thank you guys for this opportunity and the partnership that we have been building, especially for the two continents. But we all know in Islam, there are no geographical boundaries. It's just one ummah. So I think is something that we do and we collaborate from any other part of the world. So one thing I also want to say before I share some of the things I prepared in my slides is Islamic finance, Islamic investment, halal economy in general is not just for Muslims. So this is one very important thing to know. If you say, for instance, we say propagating for more Islamic financial services, whether it's Islamic banks or Islamic financial markets, as we see with Sukuk and others, it's not just for Muslims. So even non-Muslims, probably some of you are in the discussion today, Islamic, finance, investment, halal economy in general is for everybody. The only difference is everything which is delivered and all transactions which are done actually follow strictly the rulings of Islamic laws. So I wanted to share with you the landscape and opportunities, especially when it comes to startups. And why startups is because I think we all know that with all the opportunities that we see, government will not be in a position to be as quick as innovative to bring all these opportunities into fruition. We know corporates tend to take a much longer time with their corporate politics to bring new solutions to the market. And for that reason, I think that leaves a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurs to come up with solutions which are innovative, long-term, scalable, that can not only provide products and services to the market, especially to the halal economy, but for investors as well, where they can invest in startups as one of the asset classes and build their wealth in the long term. So I'm the CEO of SEC Capital, which is an investment banking firm. So we do things around strategy advisory, we're in financial services as well, mostly around halal finance. We are in impact and sustainability, a topic which is very close to Islamic finance as well. We're in private equity and venture capital space. We've been in the market for 10 years. We've done transactions in excess of $300 million for the past 10 years. We're currently operating in 2 continents as well, in Tanzania, Rwanda, and UAE. And hopefully, inshallah, let's explore how we can do and what we can do in India as well, in India subcontinent, with a market of more than 1 billion people. I think is a market that you can never ignore. So my key talking points are 5. So I'll probably share 5, 6, 7 slides. One is just to remind you, I know some of you probably go through all these stats on your day-to-day basis, but I just want to look at the halal economy in general. This depicts the picture of what's the size of the opportunity that we are looking at. But at the same time, if you're talking about startups, let's look at this landscape of startup investing in Africa. Where is it now? How far have we come to here? And what opportunities are still left on the table that we can take advantage of? But on top of that, when you are promoting halal economy, you also need to see what can we do to have more providers of such halal products in the market. If you want our sisters to use halal cosmetics, you need to have people who can produce halal cosmetics. If you want people to move away from riba and start using halal financial services, we need to have more robust, well-functioning Islamic banks, Islamic microfinance institutions. If you don't want people to invest in traditional bonds which bear interest, we need to have people in the market who can issue sukuk and provide sukuk opportunities as an alternative to bond markets. So let's look at some of these opportunities. And of course, let's look at what drives the opportunities in the halal economy, which to me, I think is an important message for anyone who is interested to look at the opportunities of investing in halal startups. And again, of course, halal startups are not just for the rich. Anyone can participate, whether as an entrepreneur or as an investor in so many ways, as I'll share on one of my slides. And lastly, of course, one thing to note is, as much as we are building the halal economy globally, even the amount of or the type of investments that we want to bring to the halal economy must be Sharia compliant as well. So what types of considerations that we are looking at when we want to finance some of these transactions? So you cannot finance halal cosmetics by using riba alone, for instance. So everything in the value chain must be halal, for that matter. So quickly looking at the halal global economy in 2021 report, I think one of the things that we see is, of course, $2 trillion. This is how amount of money that Muslims spend globally. And of course, this gives us the picture on the year-to-year growth, which of course was 3.2% from 2018. And more spending is expected in the future as people become more and more aware of halal, economy and cautious lifestyles as well. And so by 2024, we expect spending by Muslims across the world to reach at least $2.4 trillion. So this is a massive, massive opportunity. Is almost half the Indian subcontinent economy, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a huge opportunity, which I think continues to grow upwards. And of course, one great work that has been done actually is to dissect the whole halal economy. At times, it could be confusing when you talk of halal economy without breaking it down for people to understand, well, what exactly are we referring to when we say halal economy? So halal economy actually is comprised of 7 main verticals, one being Islamic finance, which of course is the largest of all the sub-industries within the halal economy. And in 2021, actually, the total assets which are under Islamic finance, speaking of Islamic banks, Islamic insurance called Takaful, where there's Islamic capital markets, on Sukuk issuances, where there's Islamic funds, where the Islamic social finance, the likes of Zakat and Waqf, the total value of the industry was around 2.8 trillion. Of course, this is still a small fraction of the total global financial industry, but we are heading to a better direction. And then, of course, the second vertical under the overall Islamic economy or the halal economy is halal food. And we all agree that if you go in the Western world, I think there's been a huge upside of halal food opportunities. You see halal restaurants, halal cafes, halal butchers, and all that. I think it goes beyond that, and we have more halal food products coming online now to help consumers, especially Muslims, to be able to consume more and more varieties of halal foods that can be offered and delivered at your doorstep. Of course, the media, Brother Krams talked about the media that they're trying to build as well. Media has a lot of fitna, we all know that. So building a Sharia conscious media platform is very important in terms of not only providing news, which is not biased, but at the same time provide content which is not, ethical eroding, for that matter, which of course was around $222 billion. So this is the size of the industry that we are looking at. There's a modest fashion as well, and this is very important. We know our sisters want to wear modestly. I understand pink hijab is one of the areas where they are working on, and this of course provides another opportunity. In pharmaceuticals, is the same case. In travel, we need to see more halal travel destinations. We need to go to more halal resorts, these type of things that we need to see growing in the market. And by 2021, the size of that industry was close to $200 billion. And cosmetics as well, which I mentioned earlier. So this just gives us the nutshell or the glimpse of the halal economy that we are looking at and the amount of opportunities that are offered moving forward. But if you look at startup investing in Africa, it's been growing. If you look at the data for the past 5 years, but that last year was the remarkable year when it comes to startup investing in Africa, and this is private market investing. So this is not banks. This is not capital markets. This is purely investment from venture capital and some private equity firms as well, who will do smaller deals in some of the African markets. So in 2021, what we saw was total funding to all startups in Africa, regardless whether they're halal or not, was close to 5 billion, which was the highest. Actually, it was 3 times more than all the funding that was done to startups for the past 3 years combined. So this gives you the picture that there's increased confidence in investing in startups in Africa. I think the same case would apply to Asia and other emerging markets. But unfortunately, the benefits of all this investing that we see is not evenly distributed. For instance, all the investment that you see, close to 80% of all these investments went to 4 countries in Africa, which are Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, and Egypt. So a lot of other countries are left, with a lot of opportunities, which is still struggle to raise more money, which of course, on the flip side of that, is an opportunity for people to go into such markets and do more deals. In terms of the verticals in industries which receive more funding, again, still a lot of bias when it comes to sectors. What we saw last year, close to 62% of all investing, close to $5 billion went to fintech. So fintech has been the favorite baby for all the investment that we see in Africa. And interestingly, fintech has also been, I think, the most the fastest growing vertical in Islamic economy in general, which I think is a good thing that we can tap into. Other sectors that also attracted investing in Africa from startups, logistics, health, healthcare and education, biotech, clean tech, agriculture, and others. But major opportunities actually, which is more close to 80%, were in fintech, healthcare, and logistics. But unfortunately, I think Sister Khadija also mentioned one of the major challenges that we see in Africa when it comes to startup investing is this very small percentage of all this money going into female-founded startups, which was only 3.2% of all deal value. So with programs such as Khadija, initiative and Halal Angels is very critical to see how can we use such initiatives to build more pipeline of female-founded deals coming to the market that can attract more funding. But this is just a general landscape of what we see, what has been happening in Africa. So if you look at investing in halal startups in particular, if you were to take a 1 meter dip into the overall industry, I just want to pick fintech out of the all startups that we see in the market for very obvious reasons. So there have been a lot of opportunities actually in Islamic fintech, and to me, I think fintech are easy to quickly to scale, easy to start, and for good reasons. They also promote financial inclusion, which is very critical. Majority of African countries, have very low level of formal financial services. In Tanzania, for instance, only 17% of the population is formally banked. So if you put in mobile money, that takes you up to almost 65% of the population accessing financial services through mobile technology. So the use of fintech is very important. And in Islamic finance, in particular for startups, is as important as well. Because I think if you want to build a strong halal economy, you need to build strong financial markets, because financial markets where you can mobilize the resources that can be used to finance all the activities in the halal economy. So fintech can do that easily, quickly, and cost effectively. So what we see is the report in 2021 on Islamic fintechs. I think total transactions were around close to $50 billion. And this was only within the OIC countries, Organization of Islamic Countries. And unfortunately, this is still less than 1% of all the fintech transactions which were done in the same year. The number of startups that we see in Islamic fintechs are between 200 and 255 now, I think. And we hope to see more transactions and more growth in that space. And by 2025, we hope to see transactions growing actually from $49.50 billion to $228 billion, which of course will be an achievement of 21%. As an annual growth rate. And what we saw also last year was there's also a lot of appetite for some of these Islamic startups coming to the market trying to raise money. And 56% of all startups which we surveyed in this survey indicated that they're raising money last year, and the average ticket size was around 5 million. So you see, if this was a trend in 2021, which is expected to continue at least in the next few years, will provide more opportunities for investors who are interested to invest in startups, halal startups, especially in the fintech space. But also we're going to see huge growth in the industry as these investments will impact exponentially the growth of halal startups in the fintech space in particular. And of course, if you look at fintech, fintech of course is just a term that you use to describe startups or financial services, the provision of financial services by using technology. In Islamic fintech, around 77% of all these startups, we are mainly in the areas around raising funds platforms, such as crowdfunding. Atheists in Singapore, in Indonesia and Singapore doing a good job there. Some fintechs are doing a great work around deposits and lending, wealth management, such as Wahed, payments and alternative finance. So the chart on the right shows the potential growth that we expect to see in Islamic fintech startups by 2025 in terms of transactions, which are expected to hit more than double. And opportunities, of course, cut across so many things. But sub-Saharan Africa we see mostly in the areas of alternative finance, raising funds, platforms that can be used, deposits and lending. And this is very important because banks, if we rely on traditional banks to drive financial inclusion and reach more people and provide great opportunities in the future, it's going to take us a while. Banks tend to be slower, with the exception of very few banks, but majority of banks tend to be very slow when it comes to innovation and enrolling, increasing access to finance. So I think digital deposits, digital lending platforms have huge opportunities to disrupt some of these banks and provide opportunities for people. Today, close to 650 million Muslims globally live below $1 a day. And if you want to address some of these income poverties, we really need to improve their access to financial services. Unfortunately, we thought microfinance would help the low-end consumers to improve their livelihoods, but that has turned out to be different, especially for conventional microfinance, which charge exorbitant interest rates. So it's an opportunity as well for Muslim entrepreneurs to build platforms that can do digital lending, interest-free, and see how we could use that to unlock growth and uplift many people out of poverty. Wealth management as well, which is critical, and social finance. So with social finance, we're looking at things such as Waqf and Zakah. We know Zakah is obligation if you meet the required minimum, but paying Zakat has been a challenge, especially in many parts of Africa. We lack the central bodies as we used to see at the times of Rasul Sallallahu. So while and of course in the times that followed after him, so we are still struggling to have central platforms and bodies that can collect all these zakat and distribute them to people who are discovered by Sharia to be the primary recipients. But digital platforms can help actually in achieving that in so many ways. The role of Waqf is huge. We hear some of the Waqf assets since the time of Uthman ibn Affan are still used today in terms of supporting the growth of many communities. So the role of Waqf is huge, and we can use technology if we are able to invest in that space. So these are some of the Islamic Fintech startups. I know the prints and logos are small, but I can just see some of these. If you look at the wealth management part, you see Corywise is one of the fintech startups in Africa, actually in Nigeria. And then, of course, you see so many other which are very popular in many other parts of Africa. So we see in social finance, we see a lot of platforms already that are used to collect more zakah and more waqf. Some of the transactions that we've seen, just to demonstrate that there's an appetite, the opportunities were ahead, which last year, I think 2020, they managed to raise around $25 million. So Wahed is a halal robo-advisor, which helps Muslims to invest in pre-screened halal opportunities in financial markets. Evermos as well, which is a social e-commerce platform that connects consumers and resellers who are selling Sharia-compliant goods and brands. They also raised money in 2018, around $8.3 million, which is Series A. And then, of course, Mazmatch, which is it's a global matchmaking app for Muslims. They also raised around $7 million, which was Series A in 2019. So these are some of the things that we see in the progresses that we see in the market. So why should one anyway invest in some of these startups? One is the potential that we see, which are drivers for the economy. I think Dr. Malik mentioned some of these. If you look at the population today, is around $1.9 billion. Sorry, 1.9 billion people globally. And is expected to reach 3 billion by 2060, which will be around 1/3 of the global population. So it's going to be a huge market opportunity, not just for Muslim investors. This is for any investor who is looking for potential opportunity moving forward. And of course, the population will be mostly youth, with 60% of between 15 to 59. But I think 24% will be between 0 to 15 or 24 years of age. So it's going to be a youthful population for that matter. If you look at the lifestyle, a lot of people are now changing their lifestyles, trying to be more Sharia compliant, which is a good thing, it's a good driver. Some global brands are also coming to the market. They have realized the opportunity. And for that reason, I think they keep on unlocking more opportunities. If you look at Islamic finance, for instance, brands such as HSBC launched their Amana banking division in the Middle East, and they've done a lot of transactions. Deutsche Bank did a lot of transactions in the capital markets. These are huge brands in the world financial markets, but they're also offering now halal options, which I think provides more awareness. Governments are also coming to the party by providing the necessary legal and regulatory framework for the halal industry to flourish. We see in Tanzania now we have the halal certification bodies which are trying to work and certify some of the products which will be going to the market, especially for manufacturers. But we see a lot of progress actually in other parts of the world. If you look at Malaysia, GCC. There have been a lot of new laws coming to the market. Nigeria has been issuing sukuk. I think this year they issued their 5th round of sukuk, if I'm not mistaken, which I think is a great progress for the market. 2 slides to go. So when you want to invest in this halal, I thought probably I can share some of key considerations not to forget, because we may want to be promoting all these investments going to halal startups. Anywhere that we want to do, whether we want to do the halal angel network where we can match all these investors in startups, we also need to remember that these transactions need to be as halal as they can get. So one is, of course, one of the things that we consider as investors before we invest in any business. If you want to regard yourself as a halal investor, is to do your business screening and leave out any business which does anything in sectors which are not permissible under the Islamic law. So anything in interest dealings, alcohol, gambling, conventional entertainment, then we don't invest, or you should not invest in that type of a startup. Again, of course, you cannot invest in startups which are involved in excessive speculations and uncertainty, which are got out from Islamic laws. And this is the area probably we see a lot of difference in opinion among scholars when it comes to cryptocurrencies and Bitcoins, whether they are excessively speculative, whether they are forming and becoming mainstream, asset classes. So it's an area which is still debatable. We also see that some of these opportunities can be found on the listed markets. We know some of these startups which are raising money today, at the end probably they may want to be listed on some of the major stock markets in the world. By investing in these companies, there's also a guideline for that provided by AOFI. So I don't want to go much into details to that. And then now, majority of investors, not necessarily halal investors or investing in halal startups, they've come up with this theme of ESG, which stands for environmental, social, and governance. So looking at startups which address such key aspects of any opportunity. And these are the aspects which come close to Islam. Actually, Islam promotes environmental protection. Rasulullah, when he was sending out his soldiers during the time, he instructed them not to cut down the trees. So you would see the hadith that talk about the rewards of people plant trees. Actually, one of the hadith speaks of if on the final day when the pamphlet is blown, in the final act, if you happen to have a tree with you, plant it. So you can imagine how Islam stresses on the need of protecting the environment. The same thing with the social aspect and the governance as well, about equality and so many other things. And of course, investing in halal startups will also require using halal instruments. What we see is the traditional venture capital industry tends to invest in some of these startups by using some of the instruments which are not Sharia compliant. They use convertible notes, which are interest-bearing loans. They tend to take shares with some of the conditions which are not necessarily Islamic. So some of the instruments we can use are the likes of Mudaraba, Mudara, Murabaha, and in Musharaka, there's a typo. And of course, lastly, as an investor, you may also want to have a Sharia advisor with you to keep on screening all these opportunities. Lastly, if you are to participate as an investor, as I said earlier, when you're looking at some of these investments, you see startups trying to build great solutions. I was talking to this guy the other time, that when you travel, maybe you may want to locate the masjid which is closer to you. I know if you Google that, you can get that. But you can have an app probably if you travel in any part of the world, and the app can tell you the closest mosque, the closest orphanage if you want to give sadaqah, and then they can charge you a small subscription fee using that app. And so investing in this type of opportunities sometimes, if you want to invest in as early as possible, would require an investment amount of say $50,000, $100,000, which can be syndicated. So we can use angel syndicates for most people to participate. I know there are Muslim professionals who are working in the corporate world. They can mobilize their resources, joining networks such as Halal Angel Network, and invest in some of these startups. We can use crowdfunding, such as Atheist, which provides a lot of pre-screened Sharia compliant opportunities to invest in. We can use investment clubs where individuals come together, contribute their money, and they use the money to invest in some of these opportunities. Of course, we can build Sharia compliant venture capital, private equity funds as well. And then, of course, banks can still do more, not just doing murabaha. As we all know, when it comes to Islamic banking, close to 90% of all transactions are done under murabaha, which is simply a debt instrument. And to me, I think it's not an ideal instrument for startups. So banks and microfinance institutions such as Islamic Cycles and all others can explore all other Islamic instruments such as Musharaka and Mudaraba. We can expound more on this if you have time for discussion later to invest into these startups. And lastly, as a family, Waqf, the good thing about Waqf is you can have a public Waqf whose benefits can be attributed to the public, but you can also have a Waqf whose benefits are attributed only to family members. And you as a founder or as a head of the family can allocate part of your wealth from your estate. Up to 1/3 is allowed in Islam. And you can give that part of your estate into your family Waqf, which can be invested in so many things, including halal startups. And whatever income that will be generated in the longer term can be used to pay for the beneficiaries in that Waqf asset. So let me end here. If there'll be any other things, I'll be happy to take up any further questions. Otherwise, I thank you for this opportunity again. Abillahi tawfiq. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you. Yeah, Dr. Malik.
I said, wa alaikum salam, Salum. It was very intensive, and I think a lot of people needed that. So thank you so much for this, comprehensive presentation. Thank you so much.
Exactly. This gave a very broad outlook about the opportunities in the sector, and also how, like, there are 2-3 things you mentioned. I was really impressed. Like, even there is, Brother Ali was saying that there is even the concept of halal in the travel. And I was also surprised to see halal in media. And halal in media investment was pretty much in millions, which is really very encouraging to see. And we will be very happy to see more, halal investment in the space of media, because media is one of the most, important component or pillars of democracies globally. So how can be done would be interesting. The second thing is, it is often said that if good peoples do not lead, then bad people will take the place. So the same goes in the halal concept. Halal is nothing connected to any religion. If halal means something which is sustainable and which is for the benefit of people, or which never harms anyone. So if the thing become halal, then automatically there'll be a cleansing in the system, and it will be in favor of people. Now, let us move ahead, and may I request now Mr. Mal to deliver your remarks.
Before Mr. Marlon announces, it's a very good thing I came across during the time interacting with Africa. There's a lot of Africans who are second, third, fourth generation in America, Europe, and elsewhere. They're coming back to Africa. And Marlon is one of them. He's coming back from West Indies, back to his roots in Africa. So the diaspora is coming back. So thank you, Marlon. And, you give insights about being an, diaspora coming back to Africa in your presentation, and how you're impacting Africa through your startups. We can't hear you. You need to
Please
unmute.
unmute, Mr.
Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, and you can see my presentation, yes? The screen?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay, great. Wonderful. So before I get started, I just want to encourage everyone, in these kinds of formats, we often forget that there's a chat feature. So if you guys click on the chat feature, you will see some people started talking in there already. And if you all can just put your contact information, that would be great, so that the speakers as well as the presenters can be able to reach out with you guys later. And obviously my fellow speakers as well, if you can put your contact information as well, so we can collaborate, because this is what this is all about. Okay, so assalamu alaikum, and warm greetings to all from Rwanda, land of 1,000 hills and the warm heart of Africa. I'm Marlon Weir. I'm the CEO of AfriConnect. It's a first of its kind Pan-African super application. It's for Africa and the global diaspora of African descent. We are focused on facilitating and enhancing various key sectors in society that will unite Africa, the diaspora, and friends of Africa. And just a quick note on that as well. I'm really glad that Dr. Tosif, as well as Akram, have brought up the fact about India's interest in Africa. And I'm looking forward to exploring that more with you, gentlemen. Okay, so let's change slides. Sorry, doing slides and talking is new for me. Bear with me. Okay, so there's no doubt that Muslims have enormous influence in the world today. This can be seen in geopolitics, economics, science, media, sport, technology, and many more sectors. So let's start with some numbers. There are about 1.8 billion Muslims worldwide, making Islam the second most practiced faith in the world. In fact, by 2050, it is estimated that Islam will overtake Christianity as the #1 religion in the world. Now, today, I'd like to make a case for the halal and ethical business sectors in Africa specifically. Why Africa? Well, I'm sure you've all heard of the saying, the future is African. So it makes fine industry and economic sense, simple supply and demand, projecting for the future. The population of Africa is about 1.3 billion. Of this, 447 million are Muslim. So that's about 25% of the world, so that's about 25% of the Muslim world population and 35% of the African continent's total population. All significant figures indeed. Furthermore, Africa is the youngest continent. Africa is the youngest continent in the world, with more than 60% of the population being under 25 years old. With youth comes potential, new ideas, innovative ways of doing things, and so much more from a business perspective. And so much more. From a business perspective, youth relates to new customers, now and or eventually. Today, Africa is home to some of the fastest growing economies globally, rising GDP standards and a standard of living, rising educational levels, more integrated trade, and changing gender and societal dynamics. With all of this comes a change in income levels and spending habits. By and large, today's world is one of capitalism in some form, encouraging consumerism and an aspirational class. In other words, people want things, demand, and industry fills these needs, supply. Smart industry makes educated predictions and fills the needs before customers even realize that something is needed. Although not so black and white, that is pretty much where we are today. The Muslim world has grown in importance, influence, wealth, and in some places have started to adapt their ways of thinking to also become more consumer-minded. So the need for a halal and ethical startup economy has now become more apparent and urgent than ever before. The customers are out there and in great numbers. The industry now needs to catch up, diversify, innovate, and get sophisticated through technology and marketing. The current market value of the global halal industry is estimated to be $4.7 trillion, including Islamic finance. This figure is projected to grow to $6.9 trillion by 2024, a massive growth rate. It's important to note that after Islamic finance, the biggest sector of the halal industry is the halal food and beverage industry, followed by modest fashion, media and recreation, Muslim-friendly tourism, halal pharmaceuticals, and halal cosmetics. Here are some important projections by industry. Halal food and beverage. In 2018, the market was $1.3 trillion, and it is projected to reach $1.9 trillion by 2024. The halal food and beverage industry is being driven mainly by halal ingredients, such as halal gelatin and meat-based meals and snacks. Other drivers are halal organic and healthy foods, baby foods, online restaurant booking, e-commerce, and social media marketing. Modest fashion. In 2018, the market value was approximately $283 billion. This is projected to grow to $402 billion by 2024. The Muslim millennials are the target market of this sector. Products and services can be offered in terms of modest sportswear, fashion wear for teens and tweens, luxury wear, modest fashion blogging and media, online shopping, fashion week events, and more. The demand in this sector can be evidenced by examples like H&M releasing a modest clothing line in 2018. Also, some big fashion media names have been highlighting what's being dubbed by some as covered up culture, such as Harper's Bazaar, Arabia, and Vogue Arabia. So in other words, the fashion industry is taking notice because the numbers are too huge to ignore. Okay, media and recreation. The current market is valued at $283 billion and projected to reach $309 billion by 2024. Focusing on content suitable for Muslims, this sector also targets the Muslim millennial. It has been forecasted that 54% of the Muslim population will be below 30 years old by 2030, with Africa leading this demographic shift. After Saudi Arabia lifted their ban on cinemas and started to relax other societal mores, the rest of the Muslim world has started to follow suit. Where Africa is concerned, we see a rise in young Muslim content creators, proud of hijabs and thobes, and producing some of the most viral content on these platforms. With the sector expansion, thousands of opportunities are opening up, including journalism, photography, content writers, graphic designers, and more. Muslim-friendly tourism. Global Muslim spending on travel was $189 billion in 2018. This is projected to reach $274 billion by 2024. Potential opportunities in the market to meet the faith-based needs include halal food, prayer facilities, water usage-friendly toilets, Ramadan services and facilities, halal spas, gender-segregated gyms and pools, recreational activities with privacy, Muslim-friendly tour guides, and more. Halal pharmaceuticals. The industry was valued at $92 billion in 2018 and is projected to reach $134 billion by 2024. This industry is growing as Muslims seek medicines that can assure efficacy, quality, safety, halal, and hygiene factors. Due to the high benchmark in halal medicine production, even non-Muslims are preferring such products, which is an interesting state of affairs, so to speak. Halal Cosmetics. This is another booming market in the global halal industry. The market was valued at $64 billion in 2018 and is projected to reach $95 billion by 2024. The product base of this industry expanded to personal care products, color cosmetics such as face, eyes, lips, nails, hair care, and fragrance products. African skin tones and hair care needs are a huge driver in this sector going forward. E-commerce will be a major source of revenue and growth due to convenience and privacy. In addition, just like with halal medicines, the halal certification badge will give a competitive advantage in terms of quality and attract even non-Muslim customers. Okay, so these are just some of the industries that are leading the halal and ethical business globally. Emerging market opportunities within the halal sectors also include halal logistic and supply chain, halal technology, and halal talent and skills development. Now, I cannot conclude my presentation without touching on the importance that the global African diaspora plays in the grand scheme of things. So just like myself, the diaspora by and large have higher educational and income levels, which means that they'll likely be influencing the market in terms of consumers spending, as well as best practices and offering skills to the industry. They are also able to travel and have a developed consumerism and aspirational mindset. So, I can speak personally as someone, growing up in the West and now living in Africa. This translates over, and actually these spending habits actually infiltrate into what we're doing here on the continent as well. And we have seen both in Rwanda as well as studied markets such as South Africa, Nigeria, and others that do have a growing sophisticated consumerism culture within the continent. Okay. Furthermore, the concept of African repatriation, tourism, and investment is growing amongst African diaspora globally. So in other words, particularly with the younger diaspora, young people want to know and see the continent. They want to know their culture and their background, history, tourism experiences, etc., and even be able to give back in meaningful ways. So this is all going to increase the halal industry because we see, as I mentioned, growing numbers of Muslims on the continent, but as well within the diaspora. And technology. Technology will occupy the most important role in the growth and development of the halal and ethical business sector. This is where innovative startups will shine. The industry is young, and by definition, so are startups. The future is indeed African, and one can argue the future is also halal. Not just for Muslims, but for a growing number of non-Muslims that seek high-quality products and services on the continent of Africa and globally. We are very excited for our startup, AfriConnect, and what we'll be bringing to the Pan-African and halal sectors. We also welcome the support, strategic partnership, and financial investment from the halal community to help us bring our platform and relevant halal and ethical services to Africa and the global diaspora of African descent. So in conclusion, thank you so much, Dr. Tasif, for your kind invitation, and Brother Akram for your hosting. We welcome the support and partnership with our Indian brothers and sisters, as well as the rest of the halal community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brother Marlon. You wonderful work you're doing. A diaspora coming back and contributing back to the, motherland itself is a huge contribution. Dr. Malik.
Thank you, everyone. I have few comments as Akram made for everyone. Sister Khatija, you're doing a fantastic job. And as you know, as Mr. Salum Awad also said, we have an initiative called the Khatija Razinatana Initiative. We are empowering 1,001 women across the globe. And so this initiative, we are taking it forward. So we would like to collaborate with you. As usual, Salum has been a great speaker, great supporter. In fact, he's the first, one of the founding people to sign up with us. I request Salum, Marilyn, and if Sister Khatija can start the camera, so I can see them and I can directly interact.
Yeah, and we can close.
Yeah, so I was saying, Brother Salum, thank you so much for, the day when you supported us, and post-COVID, because investors would like to come and visit startups. So once COVID tapers down, we'll come to Africa, we'll do an event as we discussed about Halal Ethical Finance Summit. And Brother Madeline, you're doing a great job by connecting the diaspora with Africa. I request you to join with the brother Saloom and sister Khatija, and get all the African diaspora from West Indies and America, wherever you have lived, even in Dubai. So that would be a great thing. I came back from America. I was an Indian diaspora, and I came back to India to come back and support my motherland, India, because sometimes coming back is, helping your motherland is more important. So that's why I'm back here in India. So thank you so much. Akram, you have any comments? And let's open this thing to all these fantastic people, to the audience, and they can have a question answer session.
Right. Thank you so much,
All
Dr.
the speakers can also add some points if they have missed out,
Right. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Malik, for introducing and introducing such a wonderful platform and such a nice interactive platform to discuss, and such a nice topic. I was not much aware about this. I think through this discussion, people will learn a lot. I found huge interest in this subject from people across the world. So now we will move to our next portion of the discussion, that we will open for question answer. So all the people who are here joining us, they can ask questions. Those you can ask question in the chat as well as in the voice. We will take the question and our speakers will respond to it. First person I'd like to invite, if Professor Yazdani from Jamia Millia. He is here from the Faculty of Law. He wants to share some perspective, and also if you have any question. Dr. Ghulam Yazdani. Yeah.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum, Akram Bhai, and Assalamu alaikum, Malik Bhai Tausif, Dr. Tausif Malik, who is doing excellent work, encouraging, promoting, connecting the people on the very important topic of today. In fact, when I found this message from Akram Sahab, then I thought, let us have at least to listen something. It is really a very interesting and good deliberation I have seen in the very contemporary perspective as well, because we see this, the whole world is facing different challenges, and we have just hopefully overcoming with the COVID-19 effect, but also having other challenges. So this, in fact, if you see, having deliberations, though speakers have already, made very important dimensions. They have discussed with the entrepreneurship, with the startups, doing in the marvelous way, following the spirit of, ethics, following the spirit of what Islam is talking about on the good health and hygiene, and for promotion of trade and business activities with the same spirit. As we know, the WHO, the World Health Organization, which has officially declared the COVID-19 to be a pandemic. Epidemics and similar pandemics are not uncommon in human history, as we know. Just think
Dr.
of...
Gupta, can I request you one thing?
Yes, please.
Small, because we have a limit time. Yeah. Either share a small point or just put a question. We'll do another session with you if you want. But as of now, just keep, because we're talking about Africa and entrepreneurship, no COVID.
Yeah. Okay. In this way, just emergence of this large number of developing countries, in fact, which has played a very important role in the international fora, which we can say the relationship with the developing, the South, African nations, particularly the South-South relations with the economic, political, and other important aspects that we see in today's scenario of trade and the business activities. In this context, that the broader the concept of the cooperation is important in today's scenario. There is a specific development cooperation dimension, which typically, in fact, combines the aid with investment and which can enhance the market in today's perspective of any startups which are being promoted and developed. In the South, perspectives across that we can say, which they are delivering their expertise and financial supports to have new business, new aid is required for having such the business activities or any startups to foster the economic and social welfare of other, that friendly countries are the countries which we have a good relations to promote trade and commercial activities. From the very inception, the idea of
Dr. Gulab, please, as I said, this is QA session, so understand. Just ask a question now because there's other speakers also. We'll do a session with you.
Okay. In fact, okay. I'm just finishing with my last observation with this deliberation that you have done. Thanking to have this all very good presentations I have heard, and I want to say that the very spirit of the Islamic way of life, we can promote, we can follow the trade or any startup which can be in fact which can gain its place in the market, and it can earn, and it is need of the time as well. In this way, we can say that India has always in fact taken all precautions, and we also follow in the same spirit. And we also in fact know this fact that the development bank like Islamic Development Bank and the other financial institutions also encourage, promote, and support the idea of the ethics and the halal economy system. With this, I will say thanks to the organizers and Akram Saab for having this important discussion on this topic.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. So we can, any other question would like to ask? Then we can request our speakers to just comment one round. Yeah, you are raising your hand. You all are, you can unmute and ask question. Not to worry. You can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum to all the speakers. And I'm Hamza Faisal, PG student of National Institute of Fashion Technology, Delhi, and aspiring entrepreneur, also having inclined toward executing a startup and business concept rather than a cubicle corporate job. I prefer think of that. Also, as Sir Tawfiq talked about fundraising angel investor by halal means, Dr. Akram talked about the Indo-Africa collaboration in entrepreneurship. Sister Khadija talked about the fact of most startup are male dominant and thus leaving the women's. So I personally like all such things. Also having Sir Samuel talk about the Islamic funding and promoting the...
Yeah, just ask the question, Hamza, so that we can save time. No?
Yeah. So the building of the halal economy. So I really like all such things and definitely wanted to work for my startup. And anyhow, I'm curious to know how to initiate with the startup building after making the POC and after settling of all the layouts and presenting things, and can I start with this? And this is difficult for me. Really building a startup. Yeah.
So how to go halal way, basically? That's the question.
Yeah, basically. I have an idea. I'm working on that project.
Thank you. Thank you. So do you want to take 2-3 more questions together and respond, or we debate one by one?
I think Salim can answer this student's query because he's a startup expert, and also how he counsels halal startups, and then maybe Madeline can add on to it and Sister Khatija can add on to it.
Right. Brother Salum.
Sorry, I didn't get part of the question. If you can...
The question is how to, so he has an idea. He wants to convert or translate that idea into a startup. So how to start, how to go halal, or how to start a halal way of doing business? That's the question.
Plus, he's a fashion designer.
He's into fashion designing.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is before you go halal, you just have to, make sure that the business that you want to do addresses the key aspects of any business. Because usually what you do is there are two levels of analyzing an opportunity as an idea that you want to go and start a company. So one is, I think, the traditional stuff that we look at is whether there's really a problem in that area that you want to solve with the solution that you want to bring to the market, and how big is the market, and how scalable is the opportunity that you want to do. I think this is the most important thing that you need to look at, and whether you can build a team around you. Once you have that, you think there's an opportunity, then you go to the second level to screen the potential aspects of building your business as halal. So I think we have spoken about modest fashion and all that. So what I would advise a brother here is, because it is in India, I think we will need a different session for this. So I would throw this back to Dr. Tausif, if we can have a session on how to build a halal startup, because I think there are a lot of aspects that we need to look into, from the design stage to fundraising, which I don't think we have enough time to do that here.
Right.
So what I would advise is I bring this back to Dr. Tausif through Halal Angel Network. Let's organize another session, and then let's just focus on how to build a halal startup from the scratch, and what sort of aspects are you supposed to look at to support you. And of course, I will also share some additional information on some of the halal venture capital funds that I know, which are based in India, especially in Bangalore, that can support you if you were to raise money beyond the level of an angel investor from Halal Angels Network.
Brother Marlon, you talked about the application and how you came and started in Rwanda, a startup experience. So this student can understand from your experience.
So maybe the relevance of my experience would be starting something from ideation and trying to see that through to execution and actual functionality. So I think that maybe the first thing that one should do is to write their idea down. Write the idea down, get it out of your head, get it on paper, get it into a PowerPoint presentation, qualify it by speaking with your friends, showing it to people. The thing about being an entrepreneur is that it's a very passionate pursuit. And quite often we can be too close to something. So you really have to get the ideas of other people in terms of what you're doing. And, it can be detrimental, sometimes to hold something too close to the chest. So you really have to speak with your friends, your family, people that you respect in the industry, and show them what your idea is, and pretty much qualify it. Definitely solve a problem. You have to look at the problem that you're trying to solve, and who your target market is. Have a clear idea of who you're trying to serve. Quantify that target market. How many people are there, right? And then try to apply the 10% rule to that, meaning that of any population of potential target market, really realistically, you're going for 10% of that market. And I guess lastly, as the kids say, Google's your friend. So look around there. We are not the first people with any idea, right? Today, it's about innovating what's already out there. So really look for the pioneers and trailblazers and the people that are doing things currently in similar markets that you're wanting to work in, whether that be in India or in the rest of the world that have done such businesses successfully. That's my advice.
Khadija, you want to add some points?
Thank you so much. Maybe I should also try to tell Hamza to try and learn more what halal means, because halal is so broad. And from the presentation that we saw from our brother from African continent, more people are interested in the fashion and design. The modest fashion investors are always going there. Could we also try to see what Sharia says, so that as we see the young generation, they are more into digital, they are looking what is happening in the world, so that we cannot go from what Sharia says about the dress code of these modest fashion people they are running to as we are going to build the halal economic? Thank you.
I would like to add a point to Hamza. Most of the startups I experience from years, the minute they have a startup, they want to go to the investors. That's a big no-no. Build your business, because once you have revenue, the investors are interested. And there's a saying, you can't cook food on other people's fire because they can take the fire anytime. So investors are like that. And when you do with your own thing, you will make more money because that's your own money. The pain point is when you blow your own money, you're very conservative. I'll give you a small example. When I moved to America in 2007 and 8, I started the Muslim spelling bee competition. I didn't want to take a job because on the job, if I do my business, it is haram because I'm getting paid for my job. So what I did, I started driving a taxi. The reason is with the taxi, I can go meet people also. So mobility is there, right? And I funded everything from my own pocket. So never, when it's your own money, you will make it better. And halal doesn't mean that, you're working somewhere, taking that salary and pumping into your business, because you're accountable for that 8 hours. So always work hard, dedicatedly, and never go to, investors first. Build your business.
Thank you. Any other questions? I see a question in chat box. Yeah.
Yes.
So if anyone, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Welcome, Islam.
Yeah, my big question is the issue of these startups and scale-ups. How and why do the conditions become very big? Like maybe, for example, in Tanzania, most of them, they will just say $5,000, but who are you talking with about to have that $5,000 for that startups, on considering the economy of the people in particular country? That's one. Second is, how do we make everything halal? The things that we have, the economy that we already have. Look at the gap that Sister Khadija said, 3%, 3%, like in the course of 7 years, women are in that tech entrepreneurship stuff. Then how do we grow the percentage at the same time we make everything halal? That's my questions. Jazakallah khair.
I think Brother Salum will be better to answer because it's from Tanzania and Sister Khadija.
Sorry, I could hardly hear the brother. I could hardly hear him.
Akram, can you say back what he was trying to say?
Yeah, I think I also didn't get it. So can you please repeat, brother?
I think I understood. He wants to know how can halal startups come into Tanzania. That was the single meaning of his question.
Sorry.
Halal startups in Indonesia. Tanzania.
Excuse me. I asked, why do we have very tough conditions for startups? Maybe, for example, in Tanzania, they would say $5,000 for a startups to get maybe funding or whatever. And why is it difficult for supporting this startup, considering the low economy of the particular country? And at the same time, how do we grow the number, especially to women's? The number seems to be very low. So how do we grow the numbers in percentage at the same time, put it halal? That's the question. I think you got it clear, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Mr. Sabah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so what I can say is the first question, I think, I don't know what exactly you mean by tough conditions, but when you want to start a company, especially in Tanzania, in many other parts of Africa and other emerging economies, taking out more developed economies, challenges are almost the same. So I think you look at that from two perspectives. One is, there's legal and regulatory challenges to start a business in many markets, including Tanzania. Maybe the number of processes that people have to go through to start a business, the number of taxes that people have to pay, as small as they are when they're starting, all these type of things. I think these are common challenges, But of course, as an entrepreneur, you tend to navigate because we are not spokesperson of government on what we need to do as government. But what I can tell you for a fact is these are some of the common challenges that we see in the market. But of course, on the bottom line, we can always find a way to start. The good thing is in Tanzania, in perspective, what we're trying to do is there's an establishment of what we call Tanzania Startup Association, which is currently working with the government to enact the startup policy. The policy will provide the necessary environment for startups to easily start in Tanzania. So it's ongoing work. So hopefully, once that comes into fruition, starting a business in Tanzania will be much easier, just from the legal and regulatory perspective. Secondly, I think the second level of the challenges that people face is most people talk of access to finance. As what Dr. Tausif said, I think access to finance is not usually the challenge to start a business because you don't need money from an investor to start. And usually you don't have traditional investors to give you money to start. So this is usually, what can we do to start by using our own resources, whether family and friends and using our own saving to start. And then of course, issues of finance will come later. And access to finance, of course, in general, once you are in the area now of raising money is still a challenge, even though there have been progress. For the past 5 years, Tanzania has received more than $328 million from venture capital to startups. So if you position yourself well, if you're in the right industry, you have the right company, you have the right team, I tell you for a fact, there are opportunities where you can raise money. We run our own angel network. So I'll put in the chat the website where you can go and sign up if you have a company or anyone who has a startup, and then we can support you to raise money from that angle. But challenges, of course, will always be there. I don't see in any market in the world where there are no challenges for companies to start. However, these are some of the initiatives which you see in the market happening currently. The issue of 3%, I think the main point that Sister Khadija was trying to make was access to finance to female founders, which has remained at 3%. Unfortunately, it's almost the same across the world. Actually, globally, access to finance to women founders globally from private equity and venture capital investments is less than 5%. So it's not just the problem in Tanzania, it's a global issue. And we have addressed this issue in so many ways, either with the government and some of these investors, to see how can we increase more funding to women. And one of the challenges that we have seen actually is usually when investors want to invest in any country, one of the things that investors would look at is the potential of having the number of potential opportunities that they can look at, which of course they can invest in. So unfortunately for Tanzanian case, that has been a huge challenge where probably out of every 10 startups that you see coming to the market raising money, probably 2 or 3 of those will be women. So if you have only 30% of the companies that are raising money, and in the ratio of venture capital investments, and for one investment to be made, a venture capital investor will probably look at 100 companies. So you see the chances of investing in a female founder who is only 30% of the total companies coming to the market becomes much slimmer and slimmer. So in the longer term, there are so many initiatives that we need to do to increase access of finance to women. One is to have female-founded funds that will solely be focused on funding female founders. So to me, I think that will be one of the major ways as an affirmative action to increase more funding to women. And of course, funds also to look at the ESG model where issues of gender lens investing is now becoming very mainstream. And lastly, how can you make everything halal? I think is one of the things that we are trying to do now in Tanzania, for instance, is we need to have, Tanzania has about 79 startup hubs, but all these hubs have nothing to do with the halal startups. This is very traditional, conventional hubs. So one of the things we need to do is we need to have specific halal hubs that can, look into people such as Hamza who have ideas and they want to go into halal economy and incubate these ideas to become halal startups in the next 3-4 months through all these processes of incubation and acceleration. So that's one of the things that we are trying to do here. Secondly is we see few companies coming to the market now providing advisory services for halal businesses who will provide a checklist of some of the things that probably you need to look at before you turn everything halal. And lastly, I think is just the government needs to provide the necessary environment for that to happen. Now, as we speak, Tanzania has 5 banks which offer Islamic banking, but we don't have any law or regulations that guide Islamic banking in Tanzania. So it is a huge struggle to thrive in such environment. So one of the things is for the government to accept and to understand that in order to provide the necessary legal environment for some of these initiatives to grow. Secondly, banks cannot grow without insurance, but in Islamic, we also have halal insurance called takaful. And unfortunately, we have been lagging as a country in Tanzania to enact the regulations to allow Islamic insurance that will support all other things that we see in the economy. So I think it's the role of the government at the end of the day, as what we see in Nigeria, Kenya, in other African markets that are coming to the market and provide the necessary environment for the halal economy to grow and halal businesses to thrive. Back to you, Akram.
Akram, we can have 2 or 3 questions, then we can take conclusion.
Right. So any other questions? Very short and brief question, maybe, then we can close the session. Islam.
Welcome, Islam.
My question is, if there is already a company or a startup and they want to go halal, they have been operating in normal business conditions, but now they want to go halal. So they can go halal, or they need to redefine their business model.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, he's asking that how can a company go halal? This means what are the documentation or activities or change in the process they need to bring in or introduce in the organization to become a halal certified organization? So, who would like to?
Can I say something here?
Yeah.
Halal doesn't mean you need to go to a halal corporation and get a certificate. Look at your business, whether you are depending on interest, banking overdraft. Remove the banking overdraft, remove the interest loans, pay your taxes on time, pay your staff on time, pay your supplies on time. Be honest to your customers, because halal certification just emerged in last 20 years. Before that, everyone was self-regulated. So you should be self-regulated rather than saying, I need a certificate. See, a lot of companies take quality certification, but they don't follow that. Having a certificate doesn't qualify you in front of Allah that you are halal. So halal means in terms of being self-regulated. That's what I do with my business. I self-regulate myself. If your customer is not happy, give them back the money. If your team needs a salary, give them a salary. If they have a right on your profit, share the profit. So never deny. There's a lot of hadith on that. Maybe we'll do a session on that. But a lot of people have this thing, I want to make a halal. Firstly, look, if you're any income which is touched by interest become haram. So remove all the interest from your, riba from your business. Then technically you're halal. And then be honest to everyone. The government, pay your taxes on time, your staff, everyone honest.
Okay. So if he's already into business, what actions he needs to take to become halal? So to take care of all the points that you mentioned.
Right.
Can I chip in? Yeah, so I've just posted the name and the contact address in the chat. So we have our brother that we work with. He has his firm called Halal Consult. So one of the things they do now is to convert the traditional firms into halal. And we actually had a seminar recently where he facilitated on the 8 aspects that you need to look at before you turn your business into halal, in addition to what Dr. Tausif mentioned. So that's one of the things that he does at his company. So please, whoever that wants to go that route, please contact the brother. I've shared his mobile number, and then he can take you through the process and the checklist that he has prepared for turning companies into halal.
Right. Thank you. Any other question? How should I proceed now and how can I refine my idea? Hamza, Hamza is asking. No, not to worry. Hamza, you can again contact Dr. Malik also or Brother Abrar for this suggestion. So, any other question?
We can have concluding remarks, Akram.
Right. I think if there is no question, let us thank you so much, everyone, for joining us and sharing your questions. We will go back to our speakers and request them for a closing remarks in maybe 2 to 3 minutes each. So starting with Sister Khadija, if you're there.
Thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Malik for giving me such an opportunity, and I am really honored because, to be honest, in Pink Hijab, we have an umbrella of 100 women doing business, and we have been having a big challenge because one thing is like, now I'm understanding about the startup and I'm asking myself the questions, for these women to have the entity, to have the startup, do they have to be as individual or do they have to move as a group? And it's good that I have learned a lot from Brother Salum Awad. I think I'm going to organize a small meeting and call all the ladies to come and have a chat with him and see how they can be moving forward. Because from Pink Hijab, what I have been doing, I have been taking the women, like last year, they went to African Forum in Turkey, and then they went to Dubai Export, and now they are feeling that to have an exposure to go to Cairo. So I think with this venture, we have learned a lot, and it's a good step that now women in Africa, we have a transforming digital-based business, and I'm really happy that I have learned a lot, and we are ready to kick off and start how to collaborate. And Brother Salum Awad, if you will be honored if you can have a session with the women, and we see how we can start. And maybe Tanzania, we can be the first women to bring a change whereby other women can be inspired with what we are doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Mr. Marlin, closing remarks from you. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah. Right. Yes. Thank you so much to Dr. Tawfiq, you yourself, Brother Akram, and my fellow panelists. I really enjoyed the message from both of you guys, and learned quite a bit, and look forward to connecting offline as well. And just to encourage everyone again, if you can please put your information into the chat, that would be great. So this is a closing remark. As I mentioned, we're quite literally going through this startup journey right now, and going through the startup journey where we're experiencing everything in real time. So it's quite interesting for us to discover the huge potential of the halal industry as well, because you know, I myself am not a expert on the halal industry. However, I think Dr. Tawfiq invited me to speak with you all today because, you know, I am a diaspora person, leading a African based and started startup in a challenging time, and trying to appeal to an African market, but also through some of our services appeal to a halal market as well, because we see the massive potential in that, as well as the need for that in the industry in general. So to help solve that problem, and then from the standpoint of diaspora, and connection with India and other friends of Africa. Look, I think it only takes to reach out. So just like Dr. Tawfiq is doing with the Halal Angels Network, there are so many partnerships and relationships that can be built between India and Africa, as well as African diaspora. I personally have seen how the Indian narrative does have so many things in common with the African narrative. Maybe India is a few steps ahead in terms of technology and various other things. They've been doing certain things longer. So having equitable partnerships with Indian investors, strategic partners, and creatives is something that, speaking for myself as an African startup, we definitely welcome. So yeah, I think let's commune together and reach out, share connections, share best practices and knowledge, so that hopefully we can avoid certain pitfalls and be successful as a collective. And then lastly, just to reiterate what we're doing with our platform, again, it's called AfriConnect. The website is africonnect.com. I put it in the chat as well. We're a Pan-African platform specifically to unite Africa and the global diaspora, and around various societal sectors such as communication, healthcare, education, e-commerce, fintech, and others. And we're really doing this because we see that there is an opportunity in the market, and halal adds another dimension, because, as I mentioned in my presentation, Africa is the youngest continent, and Africa has 35% of a Muslim population, and most of those are young people. Young people are using technology more than anyone else. So you see the connection here of connecting the dots. Everything comes full circle, whereas young Muslim people in particular will be leveraging technology much more on the continent as well as within the diaspora to be halal, but also to discover each other. Technology is a great way to make our world smaller. So to see people that are like you and have common goals and interests, and have a safe space to be able to communicate and speak with one another. Because as we've seen on other social medias, there's various things such as bullying and unwanted advances and various things like that not just Muslims, but even Africans, don't feel safe speaking on these platforms. So that's really what we're developing AfriConnect for a safe space and a Pan-African place for us to be able to have a common ground to communicate on and to get respect as Africans and African diaspora. And
Brother Madeline, you can share your company presentation on the chat so people can know that.
Right.
They can connect with you.
Thank you. So moving ahead, is it over, Mr. Marlon?
Yes, thank you again. Thank you very much.
Okay. And now may I request Mr. Salum to your closing remarks, and also Mr. Ali Selemani is asking from Tanzania that how these initiatives that we have taken can influence at the policy level.
I think, first of all, I think I also join my colleagues to thank you guys for organizing this. I think we need to do more of this in the future, inshallah. And I think one of the things that we need to do actually is, do more partnerships and collaborations. Nobody can do everything. As we have seen, we have a lot of work to do. To unlock the halal economy is a play of different players in the ecosystem. So let's put our efforts together, let's share our resources, knowledge, expertise, and see what we can do. I know what Marlon knows, I don't. What I know probably doesn't, as he said, maybe he doesn't know much in the halal stuff. Probably he can learn from another person in the ecosystem, and we can build the halal economy globally. And I tell you for a fact, actually, when we have been trying to build so many industries here in Tanzania, for instance, whether it is finance or startups, we have always tried to do it as an ecosystem play. So I'll try to suggest the same for us. Let's bring all other players to these discussions, whether it's governments, lawyers, technologists, investors. Let's have all people in a room who can contribute whatever that they do at their silos and bring that together and see how we can unlock more. Actually, that was also responded to me, to Brother Ali's question, how can we use this initiative to influence policies? You have to bring policymakers in discussions. And we cannot discuss about policies without policymakers in the room. So we can have this type of discussions more and more in the future. And I think we can have even more specific discussions, so we can pick subtopics. So if you want to talk about halal travel, we can have just a specific discussion on halal travel. And we can bring all different players in the halal travel that can share their insights. Secondly, I think there's so many things that we can do in the halal economy in terms of using what we already have. At times we tend to look at what we don't have as a challenge. I think we can build on what we've already built and see how we can move forward. If you're raising money, you go to India, there's a private equity firm called Mount Jude, which provides, it's a Sharia compliant venture capital, one of the kinds actually, which was established in 2017 in Bangalore. They support halal startups in India. So we can work with these type of players, we can bring them on board, we can invite them, they can be speakers, and they can share more insights to people such as Hamza to understand more what type of things they're looking at, so we can have the real matchmaking between the players in terms of the investment world and the entrepreneurs. And lastly, I call upon anyone who wants to do anything in the economy, in the halal economy world as an entrepreneur. We mentioned the 7, 8 verticals within the halal economy, and everything is still at a very ground level. When you see any sector at a ground level, meaning there's a huge potential to grow. Today, you see African economies growing at 6-7% because they are growing from the bottom. US is growing at 1-2% because they have reached that level of growth already. So I think for sectors, it's the same thing. When you see it's only 0.7% of Islamic fintech transactions out of all fintech transactions in the world, that tells you that there's so many opportunities still untapped in the Islamic fintech world. It's the same thing with halal clothing, halal e-commerce, halal travel, halal foods, and everything. So I think let's use that. Let's identify the opportunities in those sectors, subsectors within the halal economy. Let's build businesses. Investment will always follow you. I always tell people, money follows where it is attracted and it stays where it is well treated. So if you have a greater opportunity, money will always follow you. Don't worry about that as a startup founder. With that, I think I finish my remarks and I wish you all the best. And hopefully, inshallah, we're going to meet for another session in the future.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Dr. Malik.
Yeah, thank you everyone for attending, participating. Thank you the speakers, Salum, Sister Khadija, Brother Malon. Thank you so much. I would like to make a few comments before I conclude. Everyone has two very popular applications in the phone. One is called WhatsApp, one is called Google. Okay? Successful people use Google. They don't just open WhatsApp messages. They Google everything. So when I started my spelling bee, I started Googling what is spelling bee in America. And I built my whole company through the Google thing. And I built my entire company on Google, internet since 94. One thing is, entrepreneurs don't need policy making. Entrepreneurs are supposed to be challenging the whole ecosystem. Like, I'll give you a riwayat from Ashabi Abdurrahman bin Auf, Razina Tala. He is one of the Ashabi which has been guaranteed Jannat in his life. And when he migrated from Ethiopia, the first migration to Medina, his Ansar brother said, take everything of mine in halfway. That was the agreement between the Mujahideen and the Ansar. And he says, sorry, I don't want anything. He had no money. He went and he told him, show me kunya, show me the marketplace. Right? He didn't go to the government. He says, what is the policy? He went to the market and he spotted an opportunity. Fast forward, after a few months or a few weeks, Hazrat Aisha Razina Tala and Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was in their house and they hear a noise after Isha. Though they say, what is this noise after Isha? So Bibi Aisha goes out, Razina Tala goes out and she sees a caravan of Hazrat Abdurrahman bin Auf. Some hadith say 727, some say 7,200, some say 72,000. And then Hazrat Abdurrahman bin Auf says, this is my caravan, which was laden with all the trade going to North Africa, Syria and everything. She goes back and she tells Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam smiles. She comes back with a reflective smile, and Hazrat Abdurrahman bin Auf sees that smile. And then he says, did he smile? She said, yes. And he donates the entire caravan to Medina. Now you learn two, three things. Firstly, he was an entrepreneur, means he was a hustler. He went to the market. The minute you go to the market, you'll spot an opportunity. And if you have ifs and buts, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that. He had nothing. But he had no ifs and buts. Secondly, when you follow the right path, you will make money and you will give it back. rather than sucking up zakat and fitra money and running organization, make your own money and give it back to people. That's what the hadith says. And coming back to modern times, a lot of people waste time on WhatsApp. Use WhatsApp for building business and use Google to build your business. Okay. So this was an excellent discussion, as Brother Salum said, and everyone will have sub-sessions. Our Halal Ethical event webinar series continues till March, every weekend, local time, 11 o'clock. So if it's America, it will be 11 o'clock local time. If it's Japan, it's going to be 11 o'clock. We are going to talk about every country opportunity. And then after this 3 months, we will go subsections that will talk about how the food industry works, how the fashion industry works. And that way we'll try to educate people. So visit halalangels.net/event and let's register and let's work on this. Jazakallah khair. Akram, you can conclude and
Thank you so much, all the speakers and everyone for joining us. And thank you so much, Dr. Malik, for creating such a wonderful platform for discussion. And looking forward, as Dr. Malik said, that we are going to do a series of programs. You can see our website. And out of this, we will try to achieve something constructive to contribute in this world and also for the world hereafter. Thank you.
One thing I want to add is Halal Angels is a global thing. So we are connecting investors. I'm an Indian American, so I'm an American living in India. So it can be America, Halal Angels with India, America. So we're not restricted to one market. We are a global platform.
Thank you.